Well, Beth, given your perspectives of the ESI future landscape, what advice do you have for students as they position themselves to be successful as we move forward?
Absolutely. So I'm so excited for this next generation. They're so brilliant. They have been raised with all of this as a part of the environment, as a part of their background. And I had kind of a unique, I'm part of the generation where we were a little bit of both. Actually, I remember being at Middlebury and using my flip phone and doing like little texts with the, you had to punch like the 3 numbers on each, and in a lot of ways, I'm grateful that I didn't have a smartphone when I was in college, but the way it is for students now, it's been a part of their lives, their entire lives, the same way it is for my 2 young children. They will never know a life without this. And I think for the folks coming up, the Middlebury students that are about to enter and change the workforce and be incredible forces for good, I think that there are a couple of things that you can think about and focus on that would really help. One of them is, the first is critical thinking. Critical thinking is probably the most important part of it, of what's going on in the future, because you're thinking critically both about what you're doing, the impact of what you're doing, and the impact of anything that any of your interactions with technology, and how those can affect you, other technologies, all the people around you, and the globe, right? I mean, critical thinking is not an easy thing to quantify, but asking really thoughtful questions about data sets, about processes that computers and devices are using is absolutely critical. And that speaks to what you were talking about with deepfakes and with authentication and documents, and is this real, and what should we be asking about this? What questions do we need to ask to determine whether or not this is helpful, useful, real? The other piece of it is a little bit more practical, and that is coding. That one's a kind of a no-brainer, but I feel like every single person should be able to do some kind of fundamental type of coding. It's a really different way to think than a lot of folks are brought up with. I know it was for me. It is, I'll be vulnerable here for a minute and say that I have limited knowledge about how to do it. I can very, in a very small way, I can do it. But, in a lot of ways, I think it's kind of held me back. And so that's something I would definitely say to folks is know how to code, know the logic systems that go into coding, because your ability to interact with computers, with technology, is so much more whole if you know how to speak to them. And if you know how they think. I think that's even more critical going forward. That mindset allows an interaction with data sets that is much harder to achieve otherwise. And the third is writing. And it's interesting, and these 2 things I feel very much go hand in hand. Being able to write in English and intelligently, and knowing your audience, and being able to use language to succinctly and efficiently say what you need is not a skill that everybody has. And it's so important to cultivate that. I was a bit of a snob when I left Middlebury, and also just kind of unaware. I thought that everybody had to take freshman writing seminar, and I thought that everybody had to write 10-page science research papers, and it wasn't until I left that I found out that that's not the case everywhere. Middlebury was really unique in just forcing you to write so much, and it was wonderful. And that is, of all of the skills that I learned at Middlebury, that is the one that I use every single day, multiple times a day. Often people at the company will come to me, they're like, man, I don't know how to write this email. I just can't get the tone right. Let's figure this out. Being able to craft a sentence is just as important as being able to craft a lovely line of code. One helps you talk to machines. One helps you talk to the people on your team, whether they be your clients, whether they be fellow employees. It is something that is useful in absolutely every aspect of your life. And I feel like those two things together, coding and writing, lets you talk to the machines, lets you talk to the humans elegantly. And so, you're fairly covered with that.
Well, I think some of your commentary also speaks to, let's say, liberal arts in general, and the intersection of, or transition, let's say, from an undergraduate liberal arts education into the afterlife, meaning your career. And you yourself majored in biology, and gee, you're not using that in your particular field today. It sounds like you would credit your academic experience and your broader Middlebury experience and to help you kind of navigate transitions in your life as you go forward in time.
Absolutely. And I think so. My husband and I were the ones that founded our company. He has a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in computer science. And I, as we've said, have a bachelor's in biology. And there is no way that either of us could have started this company alone. We had to do it together, and it had to be because of both of our skills. The grant writing part of it that we did at the very beginning, seeking investors, writing websites, all kinds of things like that. There's no way that we could have done it without our partnership, and my abilities fit the liberal arts things that Middlebury just blessed me with in terms of the critical thinking piece and the writing piece. There's no way that we could have started this company, and certainly have been able to survive past the startup phase and to exist for longer than a decade at this point. There's not a chance that would have happened without my liberal arts background, without his incredible focus and ability to speak to computers.
That's interesting. Well, what advice would you have for women interested in careers involving startups and technology?
Absolutely. So it's a great time, I think, to be involved with technology, with information technology companies. There is so much support. There are so many wonderful mentors out there. And I think there is a large societal and cultural recognition that not only do women belong there, but as it turns out, it's a whole lot better when there's women in the room. And I can definitely tell you that from my own experience too. Better decisions are made when there is representation, both women, folks of color, folks of all different socioeconomic status. Better decisions are made when more perspectives are considered. And I think that that's one thing that women are really, really good at to begin with, is considering lots of different perspectives and thinking a lot about how the impacts will be spread across the globe, because as we said, data is ubiquitous. Everything is across the world at this point. So and I think that there's a lot of support out there in terms of grants and scholarships and companies frankly seeking it out, which is not something that was the case a decade ago, 15 years ago. I am very pleased to say that our company is actually majority women at this point, and that is something that is not an accident. We've done that on purpose, and I think that there are a lot of companies out there that are doing that as well. So it's a great time to do it. Seek out those folks that are seeking you out, and if you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling like this isn't a good fit, move on, because there are a lot of people looking for amazing talent, and I think that women have a lot more support now than they used to. You're going to be responsible for believing that you belong there. It is your job to, unfortunately, to carry the mantle of confidence that you belong there. And that's something that I struggled with a lot. Frankly, both, again, the subject of my degree and the field that I ended up being in. But also when we were a new company, I was the only woman. And so you've got to figure out how to insert yourself and how to do that in a way that is healthy for you, and that works best with you and with how both you perform your work and your personality type, your character. You know, if you're at a company chock full of extroverts and the way that you like to work tends to be more on kind of the introverted side, then you need to either figure out, okay, is this going to work for me, or do I need to move somewhere else?
Beth, do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share?
No, I think we just about covered it. I so appreciate you asking me to do this. Thank you so much. This is a great conversation. It made me think a lot about, some of the things I've been doing for the last many years, and I had some kind of insights about myself and about our business. So it was very, very helpful for me too.
We've been speaking with Beth Downing, CFO of Avansic. Thank you so much for your career field perspectives, Beth.
Thank you.